Alright, welcome to Frank Teaches DevOps. My lovely viewers, welcome, and compliment of the season. Quick one. So in today's video, I will be introducing MFA. Alright, how to secure your Linux server with MFA. All the while, you've been running, you've been deploying, provisioning Linux servers and using them and using SSH to authenticate, right? So you've been provisioning Linux servers and you have been authenticating via SSH with key-based authentication, all right? Key-based authentication. However, that process has been just a one way. All right, it has been just one factor. All right, one factor in the sense that if I have if I generate my key pair, all right, assuming I have my key pair, let's say somewhere here I have a key pair, both public and private. Let's say public key and a private key. All right, copy and paste, and a private key. So I will have the private key as private, then I'm going to share the public key. I'm going to share this public key with my Linux server. All right, so I'm going to share this public key with the Linux server so that I'll be able to authenticate. All right, just to create a trust. So by sharing my public key with my Linux server, I have created what we call a trust. I've created a trust, all right, with my what? With my Linux server. So I have end-to-end trust, end-to-end trust with my what? Linux server. So this process is just okay. So the moment that trust has been initiated, then I will be able to authenticate from my local machine to my what? Linux server. So this process is just one factor. Let me just use that word, if there's a word like that. One factor authentication. So in one factor authentication is just one time, right? It doesn't ask for, there's no other second level authentication, right? I only have one level, right? One level of authentication, which I am authenticating with my public key. All right, I'm authenticating now. But what this is telling us now is securing your Linux instances with multi-factor authentication, right? So I don't need a one-factor authentication. I want more than one factor authentication. For that, we will be introducing a second level. So what that means is we need a second level authentication, all right? Meaning that the first level could be compromised, all right? If the first level of authentication is compromised, it means you won't be able to have access to the second, to my device or my resource, since it will require you for what? For a second level what? Of authentication. And to implement this on the Linux server, we are using what? Google-Authenticator. You heard me right. Google-Authenticator. So Google-Authenticator, yes, this icon you see here is called Google-Authenticator. So I have my Linux server. So I have my Linux server. So here on my Linux server, I will be installing what? Google-Authenticator. And with Google-Authenticator, I'll be performing second level authentication, right? So that's the whole play, guys. That's the whole story. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Okay, we need to get into the nitty-gritty and see how to set up a Google Authenticator on your Linux machine and use the Google Authenticator to implement two-factor authentication. All right, two-factor authentication. So here's the flow. So on this Linux server, I'm going to install what? Google Authenticator. So once that has been installed and it has been configured alongside with SSH, then I'll have a user that will initiate the Google Authenticator. So once that user initiates the Google Authenticator, let's say for instance now, the user is the EC2 user, and this user is going to initiate the Google Authenticator. Once it initiates it, the Google Authenticator is going to generate a barcode, right? That barcode comes with token, it comes with secret keys, and every other thing we need to do. All right, so I'm talking too much. Let's get into the system. So what I have here now is, let me go to my Linux server. Where are you demo? Refresh. Guys, ready? Connect and copy. Okay, so this is, yes. All right, so this is my Linux machine. Let's go back to our whiteboard. This is my Linux machine, right? So on this Linux machine, I'm going to be installing a Google Authenticator. But before we do that, let's look at the setup. Now, I have Amazon Linux 2. So I'm using Amazon Linux 2 for this demo. Then I'm going to enable EPEL release repository, all right? Because the Google Authenticator comes as a package under the EPEL repository, okay? And the EPEL repository, you must enable it for you to use it. So this is what I will do. I'll say sudo. Before then, I am using what? I'm using Amazon Linux 2. So this is what I'm using. Be careful, guys. All right, I'm using what? Amazon Linux version 2. Okay, so I'm going to enable that release. I'll say sudo Amazon Linux extras install EPEL. All right, so I'm installing the EPEL repository. So great. So it's going to install that EPEL. It's going to install and enable the EPEL repository. So that's it. It comes with the Amazon extras, right? Perfect. It is there now. So this has been set up. I've enabled this repository. The next now is to install the Google Authenticator. So let's go there now. So I'll say sudo yum install Google-Authenticator. All right. So perfect. So yes and yes. So Google Authenticator has been what? Installed. The next step is to initialize. All right, initialize the Google Authenticator. All right, so this user, the EC2 user, is a user that is initializing what? The Google Authenticator. So what I will do there is simple. One sec, guys. Okay, so what I will do is I'll just run the command Google Authenticator. There's a command. Well, the moment you install the Google Authenticator, it's going to create a CLI for you. So this Google Authenticator is a CLI. So Google Authenticator, hit enter. Just hit enter. So the moment you hit enter, it's going to ask you, do you want to authenticate? Do you want authentication tokens to be time-based? Yes. Say yes. Enter. Now, once you say yes, it's going to generate this barcode and the link to the barcode. Let's continue, guys. Now, do you want me to update your home ec2.google authenticator file? I say yes. Update it for me. Enter. Now, do you want to disallow multiple uses of same authentication token? Okay, this restricts you to one login about every second. I say yes. All right, I want to restrict I want to disallow multiple uses of the same authentication. I say yes. Enter. Now it's now say by default a new token is generated every 30 seconds by the mobile app. In order to compensate for possible time skew between the client and the server, we allow an extra token before and after the current time. This allows for a time skew of up to 30 seconds between authentication server and client. If you experience problems with poor time synchronization, you can increase the window from its default size of 3 permits, blah 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 blah. This will permit for a new queue up to 4 minutes. Do you want this? Say no. And finally, if the computer that you are logging into is not hardened against brute force login attempts, you can enable rate limiting. So we want to enable rate limiting for the authentication module. By default, this limits attackers to no more than 3 login attempts every 30 seconds. Yes, I want to enable rate limiting. You say yes. That's all, guys. This has been set up. So this is what I will now do now. I will now scroll to the top. So remember, this process generated a string, generated a URL. All right. So what you do is you copy this URL, everything, right click, copy, go to your browser, all right, hit enter, paste it and hit enter. So the moment I hit enter, I'm going to see the barcode. Now I'm opening my app now. It's unfortunate that you can't really see my app right now on my mobile app, but before then you may have installed Google-Authenticator. You may have downloaded Google-Authenticator from your Play Store or your Apple Store, as the case may be. All right. So I have it on my phone, and is there a way I can pass this on? There's no way. So please, I have the authenticator on my phone already. Okay, I have it on my phone already. Okay, so I'm going to press the plus scan to scan this barcode. So the moment I scan this barcode, I've scanned it. All right, I've scanned it on my phone, and I have the verification codes on my phone. I don't know how can I, maybe. All right, so let's continue, guys. Okay, so I have it there. I have it now. So I'll close this now. Now I have initialized the Authenticator app. Then I've now connected the app on my phone as well. So the next step is I need to do some updates. I need to do some configurations. All right. So now there's what we call PAM, Pluggable Authenticator Module. So every services in the Linux file system uses this module for authentication to grant access, all right, to grant or deny access, all right. So I wouldn't want to go into depth about what a pluggable authenticator module is and does. So SSH has a PAM module. So if you need to set up SSH, you need to control access or deny access to using SSH, then you have to do it through, a lot of the time you have to do it through the PAM, the pluggable authenticator module, right? So we are going to be editing the pluggable authenticator module for SSH, right? For SSH. So this is what I will do. So I'll go to the configuration file, sudo vim etc pam.d, then sshd. Open this. Now in this file, so this is what I will do. Under the auth field, because you can see there are about 4 fields here. All right, I'll call it module interfaces. All right, there are 4 module interfaces. We have the auth interface, we have the account interface, we have the password interface, and we have the session interface, right? So my concentration will be under the authentication interface. So this is the authentication interface. So under the authentication interface, you can see this part. Let me set the line numbers, please. So set line number. So on line number 3, you have authentication. Then this field is the control field. It's called the control flag. All right, it's called a control flag, and this field is called the control flag value or parameter. I will say value. So now what this guy is doing is password auth. This password auth is related to password based authentication on SSH, right? Password based authentication of SSH. So this is what I will be doing. I'm going to add a new entry. So I'll come here, but before then, I'm going to comment out a password based authentication module for SSH. I will comment it out. Then I'm going to add a new entry, okay, for Google authentication. All right. So I'll say auth. Then the field is required. I think I should do a video on them. PAM is required. Then the value is going to be PAM underscore Google underscore authenticator dot so. So this is the module that SSH uses, all right, to talk towards the Google Authenticator via the PAM, via pluggable authenticator module. All right, so come down, I'll do the same thing, something a different level. So this also will be required. Then the module will be PAM underscore permits.so, right? So these are the two things you need to do on this file, all right? The PAM underscore Google underscore authenticator.so module, then the PAM underscore permits.so module. So I will escape, save, and quit. Now that has been set up, we need to set up. We're through with updating the etc pam.dssh file. All right, so this is used to enable pluggable Google Authenticator module for SSH. So the last on that list will be updating the etc/ssh configuration file to allow access. So let's go into that file. So what we'll do now, I'll also go into vim etc/ssh sshd underscore config. So under this file, these are the things I need to do. So I'll scroll. Somewhere I'm going to see challenge response authentication. So challenge response authentication by default is set to no. So I'm going to change this guy to yes. All right, I'll change it to yes. Then I'll scroll to the bottom. Make sure that use PAM is enabled to yes. In case you don't have, use PAM has to be yes. The value has to be yes. If you don't have it, you have to type it there. Right? Maybe you're not using Amazon Linux. You're using something else. But by default, you should have this parameter. All right, in the SSH configuration file, use PAM has to be set to yes. Then go to the bottom of the file. At the bottom of the file, then you pass a new field called authentication methods. Right? Authentication methods, I want to be authenticating with the public key, comma, no space, then keyboard interactive dash interactive. The public key, comma, no space, keyboard dash interactive. I think that's all you need. Escape, save, and quit. Now let's restart SSH service. So sudo systemctl restart sshd. So this has been restarted. So we need to test this thing now if it's working, right? So how do we do? So I'm going to exit. Okay, I'm going to exit. I've exited, right? So now let's try to log in again, right? So I'll do my normal SSH connection string, right? Yeah, I'll hit enter. Now you can see now the two-factor is now being enforced. You can see it's asking for what? Verification code. So it's requesting for what? Verification code from my mobile device. All right. So the Authenticator app has generated. It keeps generating codes. All right, random codes at intervals of 30 seconds. All right, intervals of 30 seconds it generates new codes. So I'm going to input that code in the space right now to what? To authenticate to my what? Linux server. So this is what I will do. I've opened my app. So I have my code. My code now is 987. I'm typing 669. If I hit enter, voila, I am now inside of my Linux server. Remember, before I couldn't do this. What I did before was just a one factor authentication. All right. Now that I now have the Google-Authenticator installed, it's now giving me access to what? To two-factor, to a second level. All right. So this was the first level. I'm now having a second level authentication. So this is beautiful, guys. So you can see how we've been able to set up two-factor authentication. However, this is for this user. All right. So what if I have other users on my Linux machine? I have a number of users, and I need to enforce them to use MFA. MFA. What do we do? Now let's create a new user. Let me say sudo user add user. Let me call that user Frank. Okay, as we have here, as we have in our diagram. All right. So I want this Frank user to be able to authenticate two-factor, to be able to use two-factor authentication. All right. So what do we do? So this is what I will do. So I'll come back here and I'll add this user. I have created the user. Okay. Let me just set password for that user. Though I'm not using the password. Sudo pass wd. Pass wd for Frank. The password is 12 and 12. Alright, so updated successfully. I'm not using that password, guys. It's just now, so what I will do is for the other user, I'm gonna generate key pair. I'll generate key pair. Alright, so for that, I'm assuming that this is my base machine, right? Yes, my base machine. This is my base machine. Okay, then I need to share my key with the Frank user so that I will be able to authenticate with the Frank user, right? Great. So this is what I will do. My key is somewhere in this location, so I'll copy this key. But before I copy this key, I need to come back to my machine and sudo switch to the Frank user. I have switched user to what? To the Frank user. So this user, I'm going to create a directory called .ssh, mkdir.ssh. Now let's check the permission on that directory. The permission is 700. So this is 700. It makes some sense, right? It makes some sense. 700. Oh no. .ssh. Let's check. LDA. LA. So it's full permission, almost full permission. So it's not 700. So this is what I will do. I'm going to change the permission to 700 on .ssh. That has been done. Let's check now. Let's check. So you can see this directory now has what? Now have 700 permission. All right, great. Meaning that only the user have access to this directory. The user Frank have access to that directory. Now in this file, I'm going to create a file called authorized_keys. So I'll say touch authorized_keys file. Take note, guys, the spelling has to match. Authorized_keys. Now I'm going to install my SSH key, which is this, from my base machine. Copy my public key, because I generated a key pair. All right, my public key with the Frank authorized keys. So I'll install the key there. I've installed that key now. Escape, save, and quit. All right, perfect. Now let's exit. Now sudo systemctl restart sshd. Restarted. Now let me exit. Now let me try to authenticate with the Frank user. All right. Now say ssh frank at, where is that public IP? So here's the public IP. Dots and 1 2 3. All right, great. The user has to be Frank, and there is no private key. Okay. So let's check now. So it's asking for fingerprints. Yeah, say yes. Okay, okay. So again, the authorized underscore key file is still exposed. We need to change the permission on that file. So let me go back with the EC2 user. Let's log in with it. It's asking for my verification code 703310. Alright, I'm inside now. So now I need to edit the file. So sudo switch to frank user. I'm in frank user now. Now let's check something. Now remember, we had to change the permission of this directory that we created towards just what? Just this is 700, right? Now there is the file that we created, a file called authorized underscore keys file. This file also, we need to change this permission to 600, meaning that only the user Frank should have access to the file. As it is now, if the group has access, read write access, and others have read access to that file, so it is not supposed to be so, right? It has to be only the user. So this is what I will do. I'll say change mode 600 on what? On the authorized underscore keys file. Now let's check the permission again. So that has been changed to what? To 600. So with this now, we should be able to authenticate. Now let's go out now. Let's exit. Now let's try to authenticate one more time and let's see. All right. Okay, great. Now this is perfect. So we have not enabled public key authentication. Now let's go back to that file. Let's go back. Input your verification code is 104243. Okay, great. So sudo vim etc sshd, right? So what's this? Come on. sshd underscore conf, sorry. Now I need to enable public key authentication. By default it is set to no. Here it is, guys. So uncomment that line, escape, save and quit. Now restart SSH. Sudo system ctl restart sshd. Perfect. Exit and let's try to authenticate now with a frank user. Let's see. Okay, we're still having this challenge. Okay, let's do one more thing. So sorry guys, I just recall I've not pasted this key. I've not pasted the key. So copy this public key. Copy your public key from your base machine. Copy public key. That was an oversight, guys. So I've not even the file is empty. pwd. Alright, so this file authorized keys is empty. So I've not even, I only created it. Sorry guys. So paste that file there. Great. Escape, save and quit. Alright, so exit and let's restart SSH. Sudo system ctl restart sshd. Alright, great. Let's exit now and try to authenticate with the frank user. So here's a frank user. So yes, so now you can see key-based authentication is now being enforced. So I can give in my password, CCILIADUN. Alright, so okay, I know where this is coming from. I got this. Perfect. So before this, let me go and put off this feature. Alright, so let me put off this feature. I just want to show something first that we can authenticate. So let me go there, impute my code again, 084. So sudo vim etc sshd underscore conf. So down here, so let me first of all put off this guy, escape, save and quit. Sudo system restart. I don't know why sshd. Alright, exit, authenticate with frank, CEC. Alright, this should, okay. So now you can see I can authenticate via key-based authentication. All right, via key-based authentication. All right, great. So that's perfect now. So that let's see how we can enforce this user to use the Google Authenticator. So this is what I will do. I'm going to exit. All right. Then I'm going to log in with the user, the main user. I've disabled that stuff. So let's go back. Vim etc sshd conf. So let me enable this part. Great. So my authentication is back up. So sudo systemctl restart sshd. So if I exit and try to come back in, it will ask for verification. That's it. 518267. So I'm inside now. So this is what I will do. So I'm going to create, okay, I'm going to create a file somewhere. So this is let me add that to our setup. Let me say bonus to install the Google Authenticator for all users on your Linux machine. All right, first step, create a file, a script file. Create a script file on /etc/profile.d. right? You can call that script file. Could be any name, but I just want to call it mfa.sh. right? Create a script file called mfa.sh on this guy, right? So once that has been created, for this course I am leveraging on AWS documentation, which I'm going to share with us, okay, which I'm going to share with us briefly, which I'll share this document with us the moment I'm through. So now this is the part, all right? So I'm going to copy all of these scripts. So this is what this script is doing, okay? So it's going to create authentication code for every user. All right, every user that logs into your server is going to have its own authenticator app and its own authentication verification code. So this is what I'll do. Just copy this script the way it is. Copy it. Now come to your terminal. Now go into that file. All right, have I created the file? No, I need to create the file. Create the file mfa.sh on /etc/provide.d. So I'll go there, sudo vim etc profile.d. I'll call it mfa.sh. It could be anything, but just to identify the file, paste it. So that's it, guys. That's it. Okay, so what this thing is doing is it's going to enforce every user to use the Google MFA, to use two-factor authentication. So I'm going to escape, save, and quit. Sudo restart systemctl restart sshd. So I'll exit. Now I'll try to log in with Frank. See what's gonna happen. So once I hit this guy, first it will ask for my public key. All right, the passphrase to my private key. See. So I've given the passphrase. So yeah, having this challenge. So I'll rectify that challenge. I'll rectify it. I know where it's coming from. All right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to ask the Frank user. All right. Now, without even asking the Frank user, the system admin, what the system administrator will do. This is what you will do as a system admin, because you are setting up Frank user, you're setting up this user, all right, and you're making sure that the two-factor authentication is enforced for this user in his next login. So this is what you would do for this user. So you come back to your terminal, all right. You're going to, because if you try to log in with that user, this user will not be able. This user will always have permission denied, all right. So you have to enable this authenticator process for this user. It has been done already, but you need to manually log in into the user's account. So for that, I'm going to authenticate back with my EC2 user, which is 850 350. Logging back with the EC2 user while I am on my admin account. The EC2 user is the admin account. So this is what I will do. I will say sudo switch toward the Frank user. I'm going to switch to the Frank user. So the moment I switch to the Frank user, it's going to generate for me Frank's authentication verification URL. So it's going to create for me the URL, the authenticator, the Google Authenticator URL for Frank, which Frank will use to set up his own Google Authenticator app and all of that. So if I hit enter, I will have this. So now let's scroll to the top. You see the URL. So you can see, so it generated a URL based on the user Frank. It's a one-time password for Frank, all right. So this is for Frank. So you're going to copy this guy. I'll copy this guy, highlight, copy. Then I'll go to the browser. I'll go to my browser. I'll paste it and I'll hit enter. So while I hit enter, assuming you send this thing to Frank, Frank will hit enter. Now Frank is going to use his own phone, his own mobile phone, to scan this QR code. So I'm on Frank phone now. So I'm going to scan this QR code. Let's scan. I have scanned this QR code for Frank. Alright? So now that I have scanned this QR code for Frank, I'll come to my terminal. I'll exit. Now if I try to authenticate with the Frank user, let's see now. The first level is going to be the SSH passphrase. The second level is going to be the verification code. You can see now. So I have enforced Frank to use the two-factor authentication. So I'm going to go to Frank Mobile. I go to Frank Mobile, then I'm going to type 633509. So the moment I hit this, voila, I have authenticated into my Linux server. So guys, this is the beauty. Similarly, if I create another user, let's say if I create another user, let me call that user Mary. The same thing is going to happen with Mary, all right? Because I have set up my server such that any user that gets created, automatically that user will have two-factor being enforced for that user. So this is it for this video, guys, and I hope that you love it. Okay, I hope that you love it, and this is another level of security. Like we rightly mentioned, Frank Teaches DevOps is transitioning into DevSecOps. So come next year, by God's grace, 2024, probably somewhere around first week in March, Frank Teaches DevOps will be kickstarting, all right, our own DevSecOps training, man. DevSecOps training on DevSecOps, which we are going to cut across a lot of areas. We're talking about AWS security. We talk about server hardening, which is Linux server hardening. We shall also look at Docker security, where we would set up our environment such that we are going to hack Docker containers. Yes, you hear me all right. We are going to hack Docker containers. We're going to perform series of pen tests on our Docker containers and also see how to protect these containers from external access. Then we shall look at Kubernetes security, And finally, we shall also look at end-to-end security, on implementing end-to-end security in your build, in your CI/CD pipeline. All right, in your CI/CD pipeline, where we should talk about things like a different level of scanning, with SAS scanning, SCS scanning, DAST scanning, IST scanning, and IAC scanning. And also we'll also see how to integrate these different scanning with Jira for proper issue reporting. All right, for proper issue reporting. That being said, guys, this is what I wanted to bring to you guys: securing Linux instances with two-factor authentication. That's it for you for today, guys. Love you guys. Please share, subscribe, share our YouTube channel with your network. Subscribe and like this video. Thank you, and see you in our next episode.